Hello there. So today I'm going to give you a tour of my shop. I just finished putting it all together, and I'll start here at the back. These entrance doors are made out of Douglas fir. They have Douglas fir panels. It's all finished with shosugiban, where you char the wood and then oil it. The inside is red cedar, and you can see the unfinished Douglas fir here. And then I built the hinges. These are water jetted out of steel, and they're reminiscent of the Meiji castle in Japan. So let's go take a look at the shop. Before we go in, I want to tell you a little bit about this shed. I made a video about building this. It's a timber frame utility shed, I suppose you could call. This is the main entrance that I take from the house. It's a little rough still because we haven't finished the outside. I needed to redo some of the stucco. But this shed is built to protect the dust collector and compressor. So let's take a look at that. Alright, here is the dust collector. It's a JG blower, old school dust collector that I picked up at a reclaimed materials store. It has a Leeson 1 horsepower motor on it, and it works pretty well. I measured the CFM at about 220 or so after a 20-foot length of flexible pipe with an anemometer. So that's not the best, but it does suck up all the chips. And it is running on 3-phase. You can see over here that is the 3-phase on the top. No, sorry, 3-phase on the bottom, single phase on the top. On the other side here is the compressor, 30 gallons. There's a lot of storage in here, but that goes through a filter and then in to the shop. So this is what I see when I walk in the main entrance. It's not a very big shop, but it's pretty capable. I'll go through the tools that I have and the other features that I have in this shop. In general, it's a concrete building with 2x4 wall insulated and then drywall above these birch and maple paneling that I put in. There's a lot of plugs. I did all the wiring, so I wanted it to be, I didn't want to have to run extension cords. So if I need to plug something in, I pretty much can just plug it in anywhere and move it around. And there's plenty of circuits, so it's almost impossible to blow one. So let's start with the power tools. So the first sort of power tool is the dust collector, which I showed you outside. It comes in through this hose, and that's about 20 feet of flexible hose that I can attach to all the different tools. It's not a huge pain to do that because my process, generally I move through each tool and then the table saw is kind of always hooked up. And it's also nice to have it outside because it's very quiet. So you don't even need ear protection or anything when the dust collector is running, and you can use it to vacuum up chips on the floor and stuff like that. So the table saw is a Grizzly G1023 with a router extension table. It's a 5 horsepower model. This is a great saw. I've used it a little bit since I got it. I upgraded from an older 2 horsepower saw, and it's very smooth. It holds all the tolerances. The miter gauge stays at 90, and when adjusted with these little set screws that snug this up, it it's very useful. What else is cool about this saw? The fence, I guess it didn't come with a measuring tape. I had to buy an extra one, so I got this Starrett. The one thing I did not like about this saw is it had a weird magnifying glass cursor, and so I changed that out to there's a very small hairline here. Next big tool is the Hammer A331 joiner planer combo. It's set up not in any usable state right now because I was showing a friend the segmented cutter head. I guess they were telling me that they have some sort of fancy patent on this, and I think it might have to do something with the fact that this is at a shearing angle. Some of these, a lot of the import ones have a blade that's square to the wood, whereas this is at an angle, so it's a much smoother cut. I mean, it's very smooth. I mean, these are all sharp. This is pretty new, but otherwise it's a dream. I'm glad that I spent the extra money to get a European-made tool like this, because this is my opinion where the foundation of all your projects are. If you joint your wood correctly and keep it joint it correctly, plane it correctly so it's nice and square and true, everything else in the project is gonna go really well. One thing that they should do if they're gonna sell these in the US is have a 4-inch or 6-inch port by default. This is 120 millimeters, so I had a friend turn a plumbing fitting to interior 120 millimeters, exterior 4 inches, so I could connect the dust collector. But this is somewhat restrictive, and you'd want as much flow as possible. No major complaints about this machine so far. It's pretty amazing. I would highly recommend using a combo machine that makes with an easy changeover for a small shop, because this saves a ton of space. To have a joiner and a planer would make it almost impossible to do anything in here. Next big machine is the Grizzly Bandsaw. This is, I forget the model number because I took all the stickers off because I don't like to see stickers on anything. But it is the model that is, it has an inverter motor and a speed controller. The wood and metal version. I have this massive resaw blade. It's a 1-inch resaw blade, and when this is on, this thing cuts like a dream. I resawed some wood for my miter saw zero clearance insert, and I had scrap left over that was about 1/16 of an inch, so this holds an amazing cut. And there's the dust collection connection there. So those are the big power tools. Really everything you need to mill wood. Resaw it, joint it, plane it, table saw it. And when I use these, tools, I have to rearrange the shop. That's the only downside. The shop is small, but it's totally usable, and you just kind of have to set up each operation. So when you're gonna bandsaw your wood, you move the bandsaw out. When you're gonna joint and plane your wood, you move that out. And think about structuring a project in a way that allows you not to have to move tools around constantly. They are all powered by a couple different outlets. There's a 30 amp 240 outlet behind the vacuum there. The bandsaw actually uses a 20 amp 240, which is here, which is kind of a pain because you have to run a cord across the room. There are 2 more outlets behind this stuff. Those, I had wired it before I was really into woodworking, so I had thought about different tools. There's also a welding outlet behind there as well. Another power tool that I've been using a lot is the hollow chisel mortiser. This is by Raycon. It's great because it comes with an XY table, which not a lot of the smaller, inexpensive hollow chisel mortisers come with. And for the price, it was a decent deal for that. I agree with the other reviews online that this motor is a little underpowered. Also, I don't like how little space there is here, travel-wise, because if you want to put any kind of beam, that's not going to fit. Also, if you have any kind of fixturing to hold your work, then it doesn't give you a lot of space. On the opposite side of the shop, I have some of the smaller power tools and what I'd like to call my sort of tool storage, tool maintenance area. I found that since building my own shop and doing this type of work continuously, you have three main activities as a woodworker. You're maintaining your tools, keeping them sharp, basically. You're building jigs and fixtures and things that help you do your work. And then the third is actually doing the woodwork. And there's a lot of time that you spend on the maintenance side. So I think I would expand this area a little bit on a larger shop, but most of what this table is dedicated to is general maintenance of tools. So, I have a bench grinder here with a wire wheel, CBN wheel, all the machinist tools and stuff like that. A little bit of space that I can kind of mess with some things, and a vise here. So, often you're going to be sharpening tools, adjusting them, tweaking them, stuff like that. And that's a lot of what's in these tool cabinets. Not only woodworking tools and things like that, but all the other tools that you would need to run any kind of shop. And I used to be building all sorts of different things, so I have all the tools left over from that. But when I was setting up this shop, sure, I needed lots of wiring. I needed machinist tools to calibrate everything. I needed wrenches and all that type of stuff. So that's where all that's stored. I don't have a dedicated miter saw station. That is a little bit of a pain right now, I think. But mostly what I'd be using this for is breaking down large pieces of wood before I do the milling operations. And in that case, I move it over to the bench or the table saw. Behind here is the power wall. You have 2 meters, one for single phase, one for 3-phase, and then 2 panels. Along this wall, I have more tool storage for some of the more hand tools and saws down here. The thermostat and the compressor switch is here. That's another thing that I wanted outside because it's pretty loud, so you can hear it. It's still a pain. I don't like listening to it, but it's better than being inside. And that was with the window open. Here's the heater for the shop. It's one of these inexpensive electric heaters. It makes this place very cozy. And on top, below that is the general cabinet for, sandpaper, liquid, fasteners, extra tools and stuff like that. As much as possible, I want to have as little as possible visible, except for things that, are nice to look at. That's why I have the tools I'll put away in drawers, in cabinets. I have some of the nice tools on the shelf here, and then I have mostly wood here. I prefer to change out this whole section in the future with a big bench that has tons of drawers in it. Something nice in wood and with a higher counter. That way I could do all the maintenance and other small tasks on top and have everything in one low cabinet versus this metal cabinet here for fasteners and consumables and stuff like that, and those black tool cabinets. I don't really like the black in the context of all this natural coloring. Above all those machines is the wood storage area, and I think for the price, these Grizzly wood racks cannot be beat. I think they were $26 for a pair. And there's probably 1,000 videos on YouTube showing you how you can build your own wood racks. I can't imagine building something that is even remotely usable in less time than it would take to basically earn the money to buy these. And honestly, I don't even like storing wood like this because, for one thing, there's lots of pieces way up in the air. Anything that's behind a piece, you can't see. And also, the grain that you're interested in is laying flat. I'm much more of a fan of vertically storing wood so that you can organize it tallest to shortest, front to back, or back to front, That way you can see a little bit of grain on every single piece. So this is out of necessity because I don't have enough space to store wood vertically and have all these machines. There are a couple pieces floating around here that are vertically stored, but you know, you got to do what you got to do with the space that you have. Last but not least, we have my workbench. This came from another reclaimed materials place. It is old. I believe it's probably 60 to 70 years old, judging by the fasteners and where it came out of. The vices are wood screw vices, and they still work and clamp decently well. But this is so rounded over here that you can't use it to like crisply hold a piece of wood to guide your chisel or anything like that. So that's a bit of a downside, but I put extra wood in there. It's covered with a table project right now, but for the most part, it's a usable bench until I upgrade something. I've noticed that what has been working well is to have this chiseling or this planing bench up here to set tools on while working down here. And by the same token, when using the planing bench, putting your tools down on the main bench. Another aspect of this setup that I really like is there's this catch here. So when you're sawing a piece of wood with the Japanese pull saw, you're pulling against the wood here, so you can pull against this catch, and there's enough space that this is holding up the piece. So there's enough space here so that your saw can go in different angles and do what you want to do. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed the tour of the shop. I'm really excited to have a place like this again where I can create stuff and do work. If you want to read more about the renovation process and some of the interesting things that happen along the way, there's an article linked in the description below. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments section, and thanks for watching.